Stand by. Call to order the school committee meeting for Tuesday, April 1st, 2014. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Good evening.
How are you?
Good, thanks. We are, actually, Erdem, if you can't see it, but you are set up in your chair, and there's a Polycom box sitting in your space. And we're going to start with the agenda and run through, and let's start actually with our student representatives. Adam Potter is here tonight representing the students.
Hello.
Good evening.
Greetings and welcome. Fine.
We're in session, thank you. Okay, Adam.
It's okay, Adam.
It's okay. So this week, or this upcoming week for the Stoughton High School music department is the biannual music trip, and this year it's to Philadelphia. We're looking forward to it. We're going to be going to Drexel University, and we're going to be having clinics with some of the professors there, so we're looking forward to that. That's band, chorus, jazz band, and jazz choir. So we're looking forward to that fun trip. Also, Term 3 is coming to an end soon, and with that, there's also Student Council is going to be having also kind of a bonding event at Monster Mini Golf soon. This actually this
that
weekend.
sounds great.
So it's a nice bonding moment for people who may not necessarily get to talk to each other that much in the council. Also, junior semi-formal dance got moved to April 17th. That's the Thursday before Good Friday. And everyone's looking forward to that. The kids can pay at lunch this week and next week, so everyone's looking forward to that. Also, the sophomore class was supposed to have their March Madness basketball tournament, but unfortunately, due to lack of sign-ups, we had to postpone that. We're still holding out hope that we can actually have the tournament, but because we only had a few teams actually pay by the time it was
Understood.
Yeah.
Won't be March Madness then.
May Madness,
Okay.
maybe. So hopefully that could happen. I don't know about much about the other classes. It's been a slow term for Student Council, but we're really hoping to finish out the year strong.
And I want to say while you're here, Adam, congratulations to you and the jazz band this past weekend for their participation in the state finals and the silver medal that they attained. It sounded
Wonderful.
excellent.
Very, very nice.
Thank you. Oh, yes.
What is the price for the semi-formal?
Oh, I think it's.
Adam's not a junior, so he's not.
I'm not a junior.
I'm
not
sorry,
a junior
Adam.
class officer.
I
I'm
didn't want
sorry.
to put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks. Any other questions for Adam?
I think it's $10.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, in fact. That's great. I can come with a dress.
Very well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
There was no one signed up for public comment this evening. And next on the, well, I'll turn the agenda over to you, Dr. Izzi.
If I could just, Russ, I know you closed the door for the noise, but I think if we leave it open for the air, that might be a good idea.
Thank you.
Good evening.
There are some people signed up, and the meeting was supposed to start at 7:30, so
They brought me the thing at 7:28, and there was no one signed up. Oh. Thank you, Mary. Okay. Oops. Kathy Balger. We'll let you sit down so you can.
My name is Kathy Bulger, and I live at 314 Morton Street. And I wanted to question in regards to some transfer of funds that I've heard about today. If I had heard about them earlier, I would have signed up yesterday, but I was just informed of them today. It's come to our attention that the superintendent plans on transferring about $342,000 from the instructional fund to a.
Joyce?
Erdem, can you hold on, please?
I just can't. I can't hear the speaker.
I'm not sure what we can do about that because the microphone that she's using is for the TV and not for. And I know your voice sounds strained.
My voice is, I am sick as a dog.
Yeah.
Basically, everyone keeps asking me if
She
I'm
will.
sick.
She
and
will
I
do her best, but
keep denying it.
Okay.
So I was told that $342,000 is being removed from the instructional fund to a transportation fund, and as a resident and a teacher, this is very disconcerting to me because I'd like to know. I know that I'm not on the bargaining team or the negotiating team, so I have nothing to do with that. But I would like to know if mediation does go through and you do transfer this funds, if we are entitled to our back pay and step increases, which we have not been paid as of yet, where is that money going to come from if you take this money out of our budget?
I guess I can either leave that or that'll be the topic on the agenda tonight.
We are going to discuss
Yeah.
it when we get to that.
And that's certainly a question that we'll be asking as well.
Because on the second level would be if, we're still in process of negotiating for our contract now. Again, a number that was told to me today, based on what I've seen from news media and from reports, that I'm not quite sure how we're supposed to get an increase, if we're supposed to get some sort of increase in like a pay. I mean, I've heard this number 24% thrown about, and as a teacher, I'm not a math teacher, I would really like somebody to explain to me where that 24% comes from, because if I'm gonna get a 24% increase in my salary, I'm going to Disneyland. But I'm not getting a 24% increase in my salary. And as it stands right now, as a resident of this town, I just got a tax bill that I cannot pay because I made my budget in September based on the step increase that I thought I was supposed to get. I didn't get that step increase, and so therefore I am now struggling as a single mom of 2 kids in this school system to pay my bills.
And thank you for your comments. I mean, our policy on public comment is that you have the chance to comment and that we don't necessarily respond to them, but do know that the transfer is on the agenda and that will be discussed at length during this meeting. Thank you. Ms. McNeil.
What I'll be wanting to talk about. Again, I invite the parents to come to our April 16th meeting at the Y. It'll be starting at 6:30 about special education rights. Also, I want to talk a little bit about the special ed problems that I've heard from a number of parents recently, and it's been long-standing. The timeline's not being followed, the delay and delays from the special ed process are delaying our kids from getting the services they need. There's no communication, the lack of communication going back and forth between the department and the parents. It's lacking, and parents are feeling that they're not getting any kind of communication. And I think that for this members of the school committee to listen to the parents for a change, and to understand that we're talking about our kids' education and our kids. And we don't need you to be just defending this administration all the time. We need you to listen to us and to understand we want the problem solved because our kids are in the schools. And we want them to have a rigor. We want them to have a great experience. We want them to be part of the school, not just brought out when things aren't going right and can be blamed. This is getting very tiring. It's very tiring. Again, focusing on the focus group, all the kids at that school, except for one segment, didn't meet their targets at the Gibbons School. I mean, we don't hear about that. We wouldn't have heard about anything that's going on in that classroom if they hadn't made a level 3. Those kids still wouldn't have been doing well. But because the state tells us, and now we have something to kind of look at, but if that didn't come up, our kids wouldn't be, nothing else would be looked at for them. And that's what's so disturbing. When we don't have you were talking about the Gibbons School Improvement Plan. There is no district-wide special education plan. There is none to show what kind of improvement we can make in our special education system in this school. And that is something that we desperately need, but you stop listening to the parents. And you can't. You have to start listening to us. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. McNeil. Dr. Rizzi, on to the agenda.
The next thing on the agenda is the facilities policy update.
Joyce, may I?
Yes, Dr. Earl.
I really can't hear what anybody is saying other than you.
Unfortunately, the way, and you know the limitations of this room, unfortunately, I'm not sure how to remedy when people are at the other speaker.
Well, what we can do is reschedule the meeting to a day that I can be present.
Dr. Earl, I was under the impression that you were only calling in for the superintendent evaluation portion of the meeting because you talked about that being important to you, and then the executive session, which we put back to back so that we could accommodate you through that time period. I know you want to be part of the entire meeting, and this is the best we have. We couldn't do a Skype thing in here. Our monitor doesn't work facing inward. I don't know what else we can do other than have the speakers who can speak up do so.
But why don't we reschedule it to another day where I can be present? Because this is, I can't, if I don't understand the discussions going on, how can I reasonably participate?
I believe that when we get to the part where it is a committee participating in the evaluation, you will be able to hear all of us because of our proximity to it, and I will move them in closer. For the rest of the agenda, we all run the risk of having business and other things interfere with our ability to be here, and that is certainly understandable. And what we have on our agenda tonight is a long list of bids that need to be accepted. I'm not sure that it's in anybody's interest to reschedule those.
Well, I appreciate that, Joyce, but if it was a meeting that I had to miss for, because I'm taking a trip, it's okay. But this is a meeting we rescheduled to a date that we knew that I can't be present. So that's why I'm a little, hurt and offended.
Dr. Earl, we've been through this. We were through this last week. This meeting had to happen before April 8th because the board voted that that is what the evaluation cycle would be for us.
No, but we can do it on April 7th, April 6th, April 5, April 4.
We have been. I'm sorry. We've been through the list of FinCom meetings and the other conflicts. We have actually mediation scheduled for most of.
Can we move on?
I know, one of the dates I said we could make it was last Saturday, and you guys, everybody said you can't do it, and then all of a sudden you guys scheduled a brand new meeting with the selectmen and the.
First of all, we did not schedule that meeting.
Why are we taking so much time?
Yeah, I can't continue it. Are you still there?
I'm here.
I can't continue down that line. I didn't schedule that meeting. They scheduled it for us, and as you saw, I left it early. I had a conflict.
Yeah, but we accepted to go there. They scheduled it, but they probably asked us. They're not crazy. They're not just going to schedule it.
Dr. Earl, no, they didn't ask us, and no, we're going to continue on with the agenda. Facilities policy update.
This particular policy is related to the rules and procedures that we have around people using our facilities for activities that are other than school. And there's only one slight change that's being suggested, and I'll let Mr. Harding speak to it amongst the other things he's going to talk about.
Basically, the only change is the one added line that you see. I believe it's highlighted. We just wanted to make sure that anyone that's using our facilities, both in-house or outside groups, were aware that if they were using any of our facilities during non-school hours, they must submit a request to us.
Are there any questions on the addition of the one highlighted line?
I will just add that the purpose of this is to prevent what has happened, which was that a group of people came in to use a room and a permit had already been taken out for that room, so that there was a confusion of it. So this way we'll be able to assign rooms to everybody who wants them for whatever has, and we won't have the possibility of two people coming in to use any facilities at the same time. It was somewhat implied before, but it's much more important that it be stated.
It's never been formally stated.
Okay.
And this is, so, and that's, as Dr. Rizzi said, was exactly what happened. We had a principal schedule a group, not knowing that someone had already had a permit for the same area.
Joyce, so I can understand, would you tell me the purpose, why we are, was there a need for this change? I mean, I don't object to the change, but I'm curious as to why.
Dr. Earl, as was just explained by Mr. Harding and Dr. Rizzi, is that there have been conflicts, internal conflicts in the past where people have come to use a room and to find that it was already scheduled and they hadn't done it. So it was always policy, it was just never written as firmly.
Okay.
And Mr. Dolinsky.
No, Madam Chairman, I would move to table this to, because I do have some questions, but because I could not get representation, I'd like to postpone this discussion till after the election. Because if there is a situation, there are a couple of questions that we have that organization I belong to regarding the facilities plan here and the update. And technically, if I'm not elected, then I can discuss it, but I can't do it while I'm here. So at this point, I would move to table it till the next meeting.
I have, is that a motion?
Yes, it is.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion on that?
There's only one change, and I don't see why we can't just accept the change and move on.
May I ask Mr. Harding while he's here, is this conflict typically with internal uses in terms of staff scheduling that?
The issue that brought this about was a combination of an internal
and an external. Okay. But in your opinion, is the external group has been good at pulling their permits and scheduling, or is it a mix of?
Yes.
For the most part, I understand. I understand your inability to discuss this at the table. Anybody else have any comments on this discussion?
It's just that I have a comment. I don't see any. I think this is good that we are adding it, and I don't know. I know Mr. Dolinsky has a conflict with this. I don't know how fair that would be for him to, have additional discussions and reshape the proposed sentence before it comes to the meeting. So that may be creating a problem for Mr. Dolinsky.
Which is, I believe, why he wanted to table it, so that he would have the ability to discuss it either after the election, if he isn't elected, or to have representation from the organization.
Oh, I see.
Is that, does that, okay. Any other, I have a motion and a second to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
And Dr. Earl? Motion to table?
Sure.
So we have four and Ms. Sauvanet, no.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
You're welcome. Next on the agenda are a number of bids to be accepted or to be discussed. Mr. Harding.
Thank you. The first one is grass cutting. This is a 3-year bid. It's a non-prevailing wage bid. As you know, the last previous bid, we reduced our scope to get it so it was non-prevailing. Our previous contract averaged about $26,456, so this is up somewhat for the year estimate. 9 companies picked up the bid. We only had 3 people actually submit bids. 1 had to be rejected because it was incomplete. All the references and department lists have been checked. Low bidder, and that is who I'm recommending.
Mr. Dolinsky.
I'm glad you mentioned the non-prevailing wage. That was my first question, and you already answered that, which saves us a little bit of time. Last year's contractor, was he the successful bidder again this year, or did he not? No, he dropped out. Okay. Who monitors? I noticed on the bid form, it said on the thing, it called for, and I did check everything that was on here, the it calls for 30 cuts and for a total of $886 for the 5 cuts. I don't want anybody to think we're paying $886 for any 1 cut. Who monitors the fact that we are getting the 30 cuts?
I am. I do.
Okay. Okay.
He has to give, each contractor has to give me a schedule and then a rain day.
Okay. The other thing is also knowing that we're asking this guy to mow 5 schools, and it said in the bid form itself that there is a query forms that are filled out.
Correct.
Is this for all the employees?
Any employee that works on the grounds.
Okay, so they're up to date and current, not.
This is a bid as of July 1, so he does not have to submit his query forms with the bid, but he has to submit them prior to starting the work.
Does he submit queries every year?
Yes.
Okay. Ms., are you done, Mr.
My
Liskey?
questions were.
I'm done,
about the
yes, thank
query.
you.
Okay.
And they were answered, so.
Thank you, Joe.
Dr. Earl, do you have any questions concerning the grass cutting bid?
I haven't heard the discussion, so I'm going to ask the record to reflect that, and
Okay.
for that purpose I will abstain.
Okay. Thank you. So do I have a recommendation from the superintendent?
Yes, I would recommend that you accept this low bid from M&J Landscaping.
Make a motion, we accept.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. And Dr. Earl's abstaining. Next bid.
Next bid is to supply and install shelving in the library at the Stoughton High School. This was requested by the high school principal and the librarian, Mr. Butler. There were 5 bids received. 11 companies requested the bid package. References and debarment were checked. Prevailing wage in this situation is not applicable. So we are recommending the low bid.
Mr. Delinsky.
All right, same question on the query form. I'm a little concerned, first off, that we do, and it's a little confusing to me, is it's a Florida-based company.
Correct.
And where are all the supplies and materials for the shelving that's going to be installed? Where does this all come from?
Comes from Florida. They make them in Florida and ship them here to one of their suppliers, who then will do the installation.
So it's a local installer?
Correct.
That answers, okay. Guarantees, warranties?
3 years.
3 years.
It says it.
Okay, and so the price includes all applicable freights and everything else, I would presume.
Supply
right?
and install. They have to bring it here and install it. Correct.
And the query forms, again, for anybody here, will be updated?
Correct.
Very good, thank you.
Are there any other questions on this bid?
Nope.
Dr. Rizzi.
I'd recommend that we accept the low bid in this case also from Adagio 1.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Dr. Earl abstaining.
I'm going to abstain because I cannot hear the discussion.
I understand. Next bid.
Next bid is yearbook publishing. This again was requested by the high school principal. This is a 3-year bid. 3 companies picked up the bid. We only received 2. The references were checked on the low bidder. The debarment lists were checked. The low bidder does the yearbooks for Norwell, Braintree, Newton, North, Wellesley, several other surrounding towns.
Yeah.
So it's our recommendation we accept the low bid.
Questions?
I just had one on the final page of this thing where it says bid for Stoughton Public Schools. Halfway down, just above the words additional services, I'm not sure about these deadlines, and I don't understand what they mean. 12/9, 44 pages, 120, 44 pages, 2/17, 44 pages, 3/10, 44 pages, and 3/31 for 48 pages, for a total of 224 pages. Figuring they go back to back, it's 112 pages. Is that the size of the book?
Got me. This is from the high school principal.
I see Mrs. Bulger saying yes.
And those are the due dates for those
chunks of it, yeah.
So 44 pages due on whatever that first date
But those are back to back, so it's a total of 112 pages in the book itself.
Yes, correct.
And the total cost was $13,678, And that, I presume, is a total for the 3 years, of which it's 45, 59, 33 per year. Okay, I just want to make sure people are aware that it's not 13,000 a year. And the
Okay.
students pay for these books themselves, right?
They do, yes.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Oh, Dr. Brown.
So, you're next to Ms. Bulger?
No.
Miss O'Connell.
Oh, Ms. Connor,
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
Ms. Bulger's one in the back shaking her head.
I'm very sorry. So that means you've done the yearbook a lot of times. I can tell you all did the yearbook, so you know exactly what's going on. So this sounds good to you.
Yeah, I don't know if the company that put in the bid.
But what you're hearing sounds
Yes,
good.
the
Okay then.
deadlines,
Then I'm
that's all part of the year.
okay. Then I'm good. As long as because she knows it.
Yeah. Justin.
They've been around a while.
Class ring company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the company I used to work with.
Okay.
Okay, so she knows it.
Are there any other questions?
No.
Dr. Rizzi?
I'd recommend that we accept the bid from Justin's, which is also the low bid.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Basing on her, yes.
Aye.
Aye.
And Dr. Earl abstaining. And the last bid.
Last bit of special education transportation. As you may or may not know, special education transportation does not have to be bid. It is exempt from 30B. However, the SPED director thought it would be prudent to go out to bid, put our specifications together. We'd never really sat down and put all our specifications together, the various routes that we were asking for, the various programs that were being transported. So we did that and put it out to bid. We only received one bid. We sent it out to several companies, but we still only received one bid back. We got several phone calls saying because of the size of the bid, the SPED department decided they were going to bid everything as one package. They wanted to deal with one vendor. We got several phone calls saying it was just too big for anybody other than the person that bid on it. And the person that bid on it is our present contractor, and the SPED director and SPED department are not happy with them right now. They recently sold, and they feel they're not getting the service we deserve. So,
What they're doing.
9 companies picked up the package. As I said, only one returned the package. It is the intent now for us to kind of take this apart, break it down, and negotiate with several companies to try to get the transportation done over the next at least 1 year. As I understand it, we are also in negotiation with a collaborative, another collaborative from Charms, who might possibly be interested in providing us transportation in the future. But they couldn't gear up for the start of this contract. So we would probably go out and negotiate with some of the smaller companies, split up the contract for a year, and then talk to this collaborative for possible future transportation.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Sauvanet?
Will all the guidelines that you've laid out here continue as you break up the bid into different pieces?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And at this point in the year, is it too late, or, it's a little
Worst comes to
concerning.
worst, we could go back to our the original contractor who bid on it and negotiate a 1-year contract. If worst comes to worst,
Okay.
we're going to try to look at some other options. There are some programs in the summer that possibly our regular transportation provider might be able to pick up. So we do have some options, but it is getting very close. We need to move right forward.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Brown?
So our option, if the SPED department is saying this is not good, I have to hear the SPED department. The other option that you're saying, the 1 year,
Yes.
we have used them in the past.
The company that bid, we have used them in the past. We've used them.
And how is the special department feeling about this?
Well, they're not happy with the service that's being provided, but the feeling is that the management may not be aware of the issues that are going on the line. A lot of the issues are with drivers, drivers providing information or dropping students off at areas that they aren't supposed to be dropping off,
Big
or giving
concern.
approval to
Yeah.
things that they shouldn't be giving approval to. So we're not sure that management is totally aware of what the drivers are doing and what is causing so much consternation out of the sped department. So that's going to be one of our discussions when
Okay.
we meet with the contractor. Is number one, we're looking at a 1-year contract if you can resolve these issues.
And I would like, you know, as a member here, that we continue to listen to the special ed department because they know what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Delansky.
Yeah, Joe, I just had a couple, I know just beating a dead horse at this point, but I see, and I'm not sure, on the last couple of pages, a list of schools coming from, and I'm not sure, there's names here, I'm not sure if these are drivers or route names or whatever, but we're going Framingham to the West School. We have somebody from Framingham going to the West School?
Mr. Dolinsky, I have no idea.
Part of the McKinney-Vento, it's part of the
Right.
homeless
Yeah.
transportation.
I can just give you some generalities about this. That's special ed transportation is extremely complicated. There's in-district and there's out-of-district. So there are students that take special ed transportation from their homes to a school in Stoughton, and then there are many routes to go to other places. So that's why, and what they do when they do the bid is to put together the amount of routes that we actually have right now and see what kind of a price you can get. So as far as anybody who's mentioned in there, that's probably, they should have done initials.
All right, I won't go any further with this. I do have some questions on it, but at the same time, since the movement was to reject it, then I won't go any further.
We also hope to be able to get better pricing. We have not been satisfied with the pricing, and we just hope to be able to get better pricing as well as better service. So since we don't have to accept this, we're not necessarily stuck with it. And so one way to break it up would be to have some out-of-district routes go to one company, in-district routes go to somebody else, and have, if smaller companies want to take a piece of it, that they could do better pricing than YCN was able to come up with, then they're going to try and get that from other people.
Dr. Brown, you have a question?
Yeah, sure. To answer to Mr. Delansky, based on the IEP, whatever is written is how we're servicing them, and it's not just this district, it's all school districts. If they have door-to-door, they have door-to-door, and we have to respect whatever is written in the IEP plan.
But there is that state mandate about the homeless transportation.
Sorry?
Yes, Dr. Earl.
I haven't heard the discussion, but we had sort of touched to it with Mr. Harding when we were approving the the regular ed budget. Regular ed transportation.
Right.
But I believe we got a high number because we asked for sort of a fixed price for the things that we were doing. So maybe, perhaps Mr. Harding would explain what was it in the bid request different this year as opposed to previous time.
He's asking if what was different in the bid request this year versus previous bid requests for special ed.
Could be any number of things. I mean, the number of routes could be different. The schools that we're going to, even though we put this bid out, they're bidding on what we're doing this year.
Right.
What is going to happen next year
is floating, right?
It depends on the students that move in and out. Depends on the programs that they want to go to or that they're assigned to, the IEPs that are assigned. So it could be that everything is different from 3 years ago.
Okay,
but when we.
Well, I didn't understand his answer,
okay.
But is it that this year we asked for a fixed price for the whole sped transportation?
No, we always, the price that they bid is always based on what the routes are, the current routes are, and then there's provisions in there in terms of additions that make the price go up or down.
We don't have to necessarily give them any changes in the routes. We can bid those or get quotes on those from anybody.
Right, but this process isn't any different than the process 3 years ago where you provided the routes that were available at the time.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
I will look at the bid packages, bid requests, this one and the previous one, but what is Mr. Harding's plan to get a acceptable bid in?
What he described that you probably couldn't hear on from the microphone distance is that it is not a requirement to bid this as a 3-year packet or to bid it in its to bid special education transportation at all. That we do it to see if we can get a good price. That we would take a look at bidding with one of the collaboratives who wasn't geared up to provide the material that they needed to put together for this bid cycle. We could go back and negotiate a single-year contract with YCN or with any of the other 9 people took out bid packages. As only one felt that they were big enough to respond to it. The other thing is to break up the transportation so those that were in district versus out of district could be done bid by separate providers, who then we'd probably get a better cost and more people bidding on it because they'd be smaller entities. But at this point, the recommendation will be for the rejection of this bid.
Yes, because I believe that there's still the option of getting better pricing and better service, and it isn't necessary to give up yet on that. And even if we have to do a 1-year kind of stopgap situation, the North River Collaborative has made transportation a specialty of theirs, unlike the collaborative transportation bid that we were in with Charms. This is not a company that's contracting with a collaborative. This is the collaborative that has gone essentially into the special education transportation business, but at a non-profit price. But because of the size of Stoughton, they didn't feel that they could just jump in and take it over because they're going to have to expand their fleet of vehicles.
Right.
So we're looking at that as a next, not 15, but FY16 option to do a longer contract with them. We still think we can get better pricing for next year.
So the
to reject this bid.
To reject this bid. Do I have a motion?
Move the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? Also on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Dr. Earle, would you like to abstain for this?
I'm going to abstain, also request Mr. Harding or Ms. Shea to provide me the bid request packages for this one and the one at the previous cycle.
I believe the previous cycle was a negotiated contract.
Would you say that again?
It was a negotiated contract.
So there wasn't a bid?
It was not a bid 3 years
The
ago.
last 3 years ago was a negotiated contract, not a bid contract. But that information, the other information will all be on record here in the office, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I will come and ask Mr. Harding to show it to me.
Before we move on to the next item, I would like to take the opportunity while Mr. Harding is still here to probably jump ahead just so that I can talk about the facilities meeting, which is part of our ad hoc committee updates.
And then he can go.
Yeah, you didn't see it on there, but as we met on March 26th, which was the day after our last regular school committee meeting, I just need you here for support in case I missed something. March 26th was also the date that the MSBA had their board meeting and voted on the next phase of the 3 accelerated repair projects that were on the table, which is the Hanson and Daw windows and the West School roof. And they did approve the schematic design cost to go forward.
Correct.
So what we did learn, and which is in your email today, Dr. Rizzi, if you haven't seen it, is that we had gone before FinCom and asked for an amount of money additional. Based on how the MSBA came back with, I believe, their inclusion of the proposed soft costs, because it was particularly around the 2 window projects where we're still in the preliminary design, but the proposed soft costs going forward, they've actually upped the amount a little bit, in one case about $7,000 and the other project about $20,000, and that we are going to go back now to FinCom and say a little bit more. Instead of asking for $400,000 additional, we're going to look for $450,000 additional because we need to borrow to the maximum amount to satisfy the MSBA's requirement. And that borrowing has to be approved within X number of days.
90 days.
90 days, which really takes us right to about the last day of town meeting. So we'll probably also be looking for town meeting to address this group of articles.
Early rather
Early.
than later.
Correct.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, that is correct. Again, this is where financing to the schematic design, essentially. Bids have been coming in lower. In some cases, as you saw on that sheet, considerably lower than what the schematic design estimates are coming in at. And so that's what we're hoping for. We have reduced the scope on all 3 projects. We're now concentrating on the West School, trying to get that out. It'll be advertised by August, April 9th, I believe. It's going to go.
Oh, excellent.
Advertised. We will have a walkthrough on the 24th, and bids should be back probably the first part of May, with the intent of starting the work this summer.
Excellent. Thank you. And what Mr. Harding referred to was a spreadsheet that the MSBA has on their website, which I can provide a link to, that talked about the 2013 construction estimated project costs versus the actual bid amounts. And I guess what was really telling is we've talked about these really big numbers that the MSBA has kind of forced us to borrow for, and that in the case of roofs, there was, with the exception of one roof, which came in around cost, the rest of the roofs were all 20% less, some were close to 50% less than the
Exactly.
than the estimated construction cost. So, what we had been telling town meeting all along is that a roof will hopefully not cost, $2.5 million. It is pretty much been what the reality is for the other schools that have had to go through this process. So, it being a first for us, it was kind of encouraging to hear that, and that we weren't going to be faced with these huge surprises.
Right.
Hopefully. So, thank you.
Madam Chair, question?
Oh, yes, Dr. Brown.
So I have a question. So in reference to putting the windows in, will it be disrupting the education?
No.
Okay. That's my only concern.
Yeah, the work will be done. The intent is to do the work on a second shift and weekends.
One classroom at a time.
With the cleanup and everything done, any kind of raw material so the kids are not...
No, they've got
I'm
to
good.
Keep all of that material off-site, bring the materials on-site, do the one classroom on a particular afternoon.
Making sure if there's anything in the air, that the air quality is taken care of so the kids are not... Okay. I'm good.
Finish that room before they can start with the next room.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Harding.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the agenda.
Okay. So the next item is the issue of the financial transfers, which Ms. Bulger raised in the public comment section. So you have in front of you a request to transfer from the instruction line to 3 lines in the budget, which are at the present time, we're spending more than we anticipated spending. One is special education transportation, which has come in more expensive than we had expected. Likewise, regular education transportation, and that is largely to take care of the issues of homeless students. And then our unemployment costs have been more than we expected, so we're asking for more money for the unemployment line. All of the transfers are from instruction, where there's more than sufficient money to fund these transfers, and also to keep intact anything that the school committee would need in reference to the contract negotiations. So this transfer doesn't impact the money available for any of those things. However, and maybe you remember last year we had budgeted a great deal for unemployment. We didn't end up using it all. So our estimate for 14 was a little bit lower based on the previous year. There are still a lot of people on unemployment, so that's more than we anticipated. And special education transportation, when more routes come in, and there's also a fuel surcharge, and we've had other times before when special ed transportation is more than we had expected. So this should cover it for the rest of the year, and the same is true for the request for regular education transportation.
Dr. Brown.
So the transfer of this money that I'm looking here is not going to affect the educational process that's going on in each one of the individual schools as it stands now?
Absolutely will not.
Okay.
And may I ask for clarification? Are we going to be voting on these one at a time?
I think that's probably a good idea.
Okay. So we will talk.
Do it either way, but
I would prefer to do that. So we're going to start our conversation with the first transfer, which is in the amount of $175,000.
I had a question.
Okay.
So, Dr. Rizzi, the question I have is...
And can you make sure we can speak loud enough so that...
Okay. All right. The question I have, because I know the teachers are concerned, is are we spending the steps that we have withheld from the old contract?
no.
Okay, that's why I want to know too.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So the 175,000 transfer from instruction to special education transportation is largely to address additional routes,
Yes, we
fuel
look at the-
surcharge.
we look at we budgeted based on the estimate that YCN gave us for this year, and looking at a history of the special education transportation costs, which, you might remember during the years we had TLC. We also had a time when it overran. So it's good that we've overestimated in some lines, and so there's money to deal with underestimating in others. So there are new routes and additional costs that have come online that have pushed the price up. So looking at what we've spent so far, we know that the amount we have for special ed transportation currently in that line is not sufficient.
Could I ask why? Oh, okay. And then, sorry,
first.
I didn't see you sent to my right. Could I ask why there would be this amount essentially in instruction at this point in the year?
When we design, well, instruction is salaries, but other things as well. So when we look at putting together the salary line in a given budget year, we always budget for the people that we have at the time that we're doing the budget, even though some of those people may have indicated that they plan to retire. And we also plan for all the sick leave buyback and so on that may possibly be needed in a given year. And then if everyone who has indicated that they may retire or leave does so, then we often have attrition to work with because the people who come in at a lower rate.
Great.
Thank you. Mr. Dolinsky.
Approximately how many new routes were added to the special ed transportation?
I can't tell you the exact number. I just know that as the monthly bills come in, that there have been more than we've anticipated and that there have been quite a number of additional routes.
Were there additional placements in the special? Were there additional placements in that category?
New routes come online because students are going to schools that they might not have been going to before or were not going to before. So students are being sent out of district, or students come into the district that have an IEP with an out-of-district placement. Now, a lot of the additional routes, not all, but some have had to do with some quite young children who have gone out of district, which is not something that it's something that we've been seeing in the last year or so that we might not have seen so much of before.
And is this a borrowing amount sufficient to cover through the end of the school year?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Dr. Earl, do you have any questions?
I have some questions.
Okay.
Well, I couldn't really understand some of the discussions that's going on. I have a few questions, but perhaps the answers you could restate it for me so I could hear them.
Absolutely.
One was, if I'm remembering correctly, a few months ago we did a large transfer of money from different accounts to different accounts, and I thought we took some money out of the special education transportation and or regular education transportation. Is that true?
Dr. Rizzi says no.
No, we took that money out of district tuition. The out of district tuition line is a separate line from the transportation line.
So did you hear her response?
So we took that, was it $600,000 or $800? We took it out of district.
It was 500,000.
Was it from out of district tuition or out of district tuition contingency?
Tuition or tuition contingency?
It's
all
the out of district tuition is one line
with contingency built in.
And the contingency is built in.
So it was out of district tuition.
Okay. The second question, I forgot the second question, but I will ask the third one.
The second one.
That's right. I remember both of them now.
Okay.
The second question is, all of us. I think I speak for all the members of the school committee that everybody is concerned taking money from the instruction. Whether we could use that money for special education, regular education. They can use it for remedial programs, and we could use it for gifts. We don't have anything for gifted.
We have enrichment
Use
programs.
it for gifted students. So I really don't like the idea of removing money from the instruction. Maybe the superintendent could explain why. Maybe she did. I couldn't hear it. Maybe I'll hear it on the tape. Why did we over budget on the instruction part?
And I will attempt, since I'm closest to the microphone, and you will correct me if I need to add. It's not so much a matter of over budgeting. When we budget the instruction line for the year, we budget with the people we have in place, including those people who have announced that they will retire, because we do not know until the school year starts exactly what bodies we will have in place. So what you have at the beginning of the school year is, as people have retired or as there have been other movements in and out of the system, you have budget basically from attrition, where you've replaced staff with people who aren't as expensive as the people who left. Additionally,
and also sick leave buyback or early retirement money that wasn't needed.
Sick leave buyback and early retirement money that wasn't needed. So that is what the difference is in terms of the buffer in the instruction line.
But this is $342,000. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
Okay, my last question is, we still have, I'm getting an echo. Do we still have the money allocated for the teacher steps?
We absolutely do.
Okay.
We do.
Okay, so I have all the questions have been answered. I am looking for a recommendation.
Well, I'm going to recommend that we transfer these funds to these three lines because
we're working with one line first.
These bills are going to need to be paid, so.
So this is on the transfer of $175,000 to special education transportation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Earl?
I'll abstain.
Dr. Earl's abstaining. On the second line, which is $117,000.
And I'll have a question.
Okay, and this goes to regular transportation. Ms. Sauvanet.
So the transfer sheet talks about this money being needed due to additional homeless students, but when I look at the bid, the amount of money listed, and it might be only for 1 month because it's February 2014, the amount of money for that month for homeless transportation is $9,700.
I'm not looking at that, so
Okay.
it may be for a month, but this is an accurate number of what our homeless transportation is costing this year, and it was not included in the original special education contract that we're doing now.
Okay.
Times are bad. There are more homeless students, and this is an accurate reflection of the cost. We will, in most cases, get some money back from the towns that we're sharing with.
Oh, okay.
But, in fact, I got a check today from the Boston Public Schools. When the money comes back as a reimbursement, it's much later. It's in small increments, and it goes directly to the town, not back to us for transportation costs. the way the DOR rules are, it goes to the town accountant and into the general fund.
Okay.
Okay. Did you, Dr. Euro, would you like to, did you hear that explanation?
I heard something, but it wasn't intelligible.
Okay, well, Ms. Sylvanay asked the question. I'll repeat it because I thought it was a really good question. On the bids that we had just seen, the homeless transportation estimate for 1 month was about $9,700. And this request for transfer is for 117, which is slightly bigger than what we would have estimated based on that bid package. Going to run through the explanation again was that the homeless population has grown and that the requests are up.
Right, we can't predict it. And the routes, generally speaking, a new route, whether it's for homeless transportation or special ed transportation, can be as much as $198 a day.
Right.
And the cost of transporting a student for a year is anywhere from $11,000 to $18,000.
Okay, so the single cost per single student can be $11,000 to $18,000, and that the other thing that plays into effect here is that we do get partial reimbursement or half reimbursement from the towns that we are sharing the student and the transportation with, home versus destination, but that reimbursement money goes right into the general fund. It does not come back to us.
Right. Wow. That's something to negotiate at some point, but this is the way it works, the same as the Medicaid money that the special ed staff is able to bring back into the town, goes to the town, not back into the school department budget.
Any other questions?
All set.
Now, don't we have the state auditor eventually making up for some of that money, Susan Bump?
Does the state auditors?
Well, the state auditor has said that there are to be no unfunded mandates, but there still are unfunded mandates.
But I thought she provides some funding for some of them.
Did they do that
Yeah,
yet?
Mr. Ford, who's our McKinney-Vento specialist.
In a nutshell,
McKinney-Vento specialist.
there's money in the budget, but we haven't seen it yet.
So there's money in the budget from the state auditor. We just haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Any other questions, Dr. Brown?
I'm good.
Okay. So the recommendation from the superintendent would be?
That you transfer $117,000 from instruction for regular ed transportation to make up what is a deficit in homeless transportation.
Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
I'm going to vote negative because Mr. Ford said there is some money maybe coming from the state auditor, and I don't want to take away money from children's education.
If when Mr. Ford says there might be money coming, what he means is there's money proposed in one of the budgets that's going through the state budget process, not money that's available for this year's
Right.
budget.
So it's not money
there
for this
may
year's,
in
yeah.
future be some money for reimbursement, but we won't see it in this budget cycle.
So Dr. Earle, were you clear on what she said?
I heard your restatement. I still vote negative.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
On the third request for $50,000,
Did we actually, I'm sorry, but
did we vote? Yeah, we did.
Yeah, 4-1.
All right,
4-1, thank you.
4-1.
Thank you for reminding me, though. The third request, transfer the amount of $50,000 to the unemployment line. Dr. Rizzi, I think you
There are a lot of people still on unemployment, and this is more than
true.
we budgeted for and a lot more than we saw last year. In the previous year, there were a lot of folks on unemployment, so it just means that people are continuing to access their unemployment benefits, and we don't have anything, we can't do anything about that.
Right. Any questions, Mr. Dolinsky?
In looking at this whole summary, we appropriated $140,000. We spent $150,000, $43.95. Let's say $150,000 just for argument's sake, leaving us a negative balance of $10,000. We're looking for a $50,000 transfer, which I don't think is adequate, because of the fact that if you apply the $50,000 does not cover what is assumed to be needed, because if you take a look, we're averaging almost $24,000 a month in unemployment. And for the next 5 months, February through June, I'm estimating rough at these numbers that I'm working with right now is about $120,000 additional. Now the question, I'm sorry, my questions are this: A, what employees did we lay off that are collecting all this money? And secondly, should we be allocating or transferring somewhere along the line, if we can, more money into this rather than just the $50,000, which will only give us approximately 2 months worth of coverage? And are we going to be coming back for more?
I hope not. Maria was trying to be conservative with how much we would need. And as the year goes on, more people do tend to come off unemployment. If at the end of the year we still have deficits in some lines, there may be a need to revisit this. But since she thought it would be sufficient for now, and we're trying not to transfer more than we need to, I hope we won't need to come back for more money for this line. And if we do, we do. And as far as who the people are, they would either be teachers who were non-renewed, or in some cases, other staff who were non-renewed or left for different reasons. And then when we have, as we have a lot of maternity leaves at the moment, when a permanent sub leaves because a teacher has come back from their maternity leave, those folks also apply for unemployment.
Questions?
Do we, past practice, I know I was involved with this one, and I had to let somebody go, and they applied for unemployment, and I let them go for cause, okay? Do we have, or have we filed reasons for letting them go where we would contest the unemployment? Or isn't that not a process that we follow?
The standard, the language, the rules have changed around that. You can dismiss somebody for cause and they still can get unemployment. The standard of egregiousness of conduct has to be so very high that there are not very many times that it is contested. However, there have been cases when it is contested, and when it is, it's the insurance company that the town works with that follows through with those, the challenge process. The threshold of when you can challenge an unemployment claim has changed considerably from what you might remember in the past.
It is quite in the past.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, I just thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'm kind of piggybacking off of what Mr. Linsky was saying. If we ask for $50,000 now, and I'm looking at the months of February to June, we're talking another $100,000. Will we be revisiting this, or should we look at this at another time and just put all the money in the egg baskets that keep coming back at it?
I think this would be sufficient, and we'd rather not make any transfers that we need to, and then in the end come back like we have had to in the past and take money out of unemployment and put it into something else. And if we have to come back again, we will. I'm not sure that this is the last transfer that you might be asked for this year. Mm-hmm. When we get to the end of the year, then sometimes there's a transfer later in the fiscal year. So that may possibly happen.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a couple of questions, and I apologize if I'm duplicating some of the questions because I couldn't hear most of the debate. So $25,000, how many employees does that represent?
How many employees is $25,000? Where does the $25,000 come from?
Well, I picked one of the numbers. What's the maximum benefit? Let me ask it the other way. What's the maximum benefit?
That a person gets on unemployment?
Yes.
$700 a week.
$700 a week.
$700 a week, so that's $2,800. And so we are talking about 10 employees.
Well, these aren't all teachers. These are employees across the system.
Right, and I'm not absolutely sure that we pay 100% of it.
And we we don't know what our percentage responsibility is.
Right, and what is how long is the benefit? Is it 6 months or 9 months?
Oh, unemployment benefits are much longer these days.
Yeah.
Well,
Years.
they were 96 weeks for a while, and I don't know if that's been rescinded. So it's an absolutely minimum of a year, and for a lot of people, for a while at least, it was 2 years.
It was rescinded. For how long?
It's 6. One person from the audience saying it's 6 months now. It had been close to 2 years.
They just actually passed.
Okay.
Congress just passed the law that they can go back and get, but they cut everyone off last week, 7/28.
Okay.
That was on extensions.
Yeah, but exactly. Outside unemployment insurance is 6 months, I believe.
Yes.
So we already paid the 6 months.
Well, that is why I suspect we're going to see this line item drop from 20,000 a month.
Both houses just passed a law.
Yeah.
Go back to the extensions and get all the people back on. So you might not.
Oh.
Just thought I'd tell you that too.
Our legal update says that the extensions may be back on.
Want me to sit up here?
No, that's fine. Thank you. You can't do that. The fact is that's unknown and yes. Miss Sauvanet, can I?
I'm ready to move forward on
Okay.
this.
Well, I want Dr. Earl to be able to ask his last questions if you have any more.
I'm okay.
Okay. So, recommendation on moving $50,000 from instruction to unemployment.
I would recommend this transfer because of the expected deficit in the unemployment line.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Earl?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Very well, thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is old business, which is typically our updates from our ad hoc and standing subcommittees.
I think we spoke about the facilities meeting.
We did.
So the Hanson windows, the DAW windows, and the west roof have moved on to the next stage. So we're moving forward with that. We discussed the town meeting articles and decided that we probably would not need to meet until possibly during town meeting, but probably we won't need to have a facilities meeting maybe for the next couple of months because the work around the doors and the windows is done and our articles are in for those and also for the additional money for those and also for the money for the Gibbon School.
Correct.
Which would be both roof and windows.
Both, yes, that'll be an energy efficient building.
It sure will.
And dry.
And dry, yes. And
best thing.
Yeah. So I don't believe there were any other ad hoc committees that met. Wellness is pretty much over except for one more meeting to wrap up the school year. And there were no standing subcommittee meetings.
Right.
Correspondence.
Nothing that I'm aware of, Madam Chairman.
Nothing from
I didn't
Mrs.
get any.
Shea, nothing from the Vice Chair. Moving on to the acceptance of minutes for the regular meeting of January 28th, 2014.
I like to table the minutes because there is a part of it I don't agree, and since that's a part of the going to be a part of the administrative decision by an outside agency, I recommend Ms. Shea take a look at the tape or the video and have a better, more accurate account of the discussion that took place.
How about we wait until you're back and you can make your comments on it?
Okay, that's fine.
I'm actually asking then. I'm asking for a motion, Dr. Earl, to table.
Motion to table.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
And one opposed. Okay,
I made the motion.
you made the motion?
Oh, no, Erda made the motion.
Oh, Erda made the motion.
Erda made the motion. I
George
second.
seconded. Thank you.
She voted, Deborah voted.
No.
No, yes. All right. Other matters?
Nothing.
I don't think I hear
I
any
don't
other
have
matters.
any other matters.
Awesome.
Oh.
Very good. On to the superintendent's evaluation then. Now, let me start by getting my papers back in order and prefacing this as to how this process will happen. The members of this committee voted a while back on a process which is an abbreviated cycle process for the superintendent evaluation, which aligns with the educator evaluation system. But the main purpose, if I may paraphrase it for the committee, that we chose to set our process different than the end of the school year is that our election cycle is basically now, and elections are next week. Several of us on the board have had the issue arise when we first joined the board that in June we are forced to face evaluating a superintendent that we've only worked with since April. And that is not an effective way. As a matter of fact, when Ms. Sauvanet and I both entered the board, there were two of us at the same time that were evaluating a superintendent that we really hadn't worked with and hadn't been aware of what the goals had been that were decided ahead of time. So the process for superintendent evaluation is the process going forward will be that we will start working immediately after the election to form new goals that follow the entire identical process that educator evaluation does. For this abbreviated version, because what we didn't have in place were all of the documents and processes by which one would make those determinations, such as the triennial plan, the district action plan, we chose an abbreviated cycle, which is what we're addressing here tonight. Every member was asked to fill out an individual evaluation based on the goals that were presented and voted upon at a meeting several weeks ago. Dr. Rizzi provided us with a summary and asked us all to come in and for meetings and go over proof. I'm losing my words here, but and that was all done, and we filled out our individual evaluations. So what we're going to do tonight is go through this goal by goal, because the superintendent evaluation process is the only one that is, in fact, a purely public process, and talk about the goals and have each person respond with their comments and their ratings. And that will be, the compiled document that I have is based on the written comments that were submitted to me. I am the only person who has seen the individual goals, or the individual comments. Individual evaluations cannot be discussed outside of this meeting before this meeting actually happens. So to explain, that is, like I said, I'm the only one who saw it. I have an aggregate evaluation, which is verbatim the comments that the members put in to their individual evaluations. So at this meeting, we are going to go through them goal by goal and let each member either read their comments, make a comment, and then at the end, I will ask that the vote be for accepting or amending the evaluation, the aggregate evaluation, and I'll explain again more what that is. So,
okay.
Any questions on the process?
No.
Joyce, where's can you send us the aggregate evaluation?
The aggregate evaluation isn't actually a public document until after this meeting, when the body decides or the individuals decide if they want to amend what their comments are or add to it. The comments in the aggregate evaluation are verbatim the comments that were put in the individual evaluations.
Okay,
I will, however, Dr. Ural, have to tell you at this point, and we are going to have to come to it sooner or later, that your comments did not address the goals, well, at all. Your comments were, pardon?
Yes, they did.
And well, we'll have the discussion. We'll have the discussion as we start to read the goals. But let's do that. Let's start on each goal. And what I want to do for fairness and clarity in this, whoops, as Ms. Sauvanet is having an attack, is for each of us to go through it and one at a time, and we'll pick an order. Essentially, just go down the table and save comments and discussion on it until everybody's had a chance to weigh in. So as Ms. Sauvanet is leaving the room, I'm going to start with Dr. Brown. I'll read the goal, and then each of us will have the chance to read our comments or to make additional comments. There are 6 goals. Goal 1 is to develop a budget proposal that clearly outlines the needs and vision of the school district based on analysis of many data points and present this to the community. So Dr. Brown, if you will.
Sure. And I'm going to go up and make sure she's all right after.
I know.
To date, to answer goal number 1, Madam Chair, and me looking in the some of the information that is public information, I have to date, the budget has successfully shepherded through the first phase with the Finance Committee, Subcommittee on Education meetings scheduled on March 13th. So I feel that she met, should I give my rating also?
Yes, please.
So I felt she not only met the goal, she exceeded it.
Okay. Dr. Earl.
Okay.
I'll read my comment.
Read your comment. You can summarize your comment. You can use the time however you choose.
Okay.
You okay, Deb?
Can you breathe all right?
Teachers.
I put did not meet because Superintendent Rizzi corrupted the process of evaluating her performance by delaying the start of the process to late January and forcing the committee into a short cycle. Massachusetts model system for educator evaluation promulgated by Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, hereafter DESE, D-E-S-E, imposes important responsibilities on the superintendent. As will be seen below, Superintendent Rizzi failed to fulfill her responsibilities on multiple occasions, hence corrupting the evaluation process. Superintendent evaluation is supposed to be a year-long process. DESE document requires superintendent evaluation to begin with superintendent self-assessment. The superintendent is supposed to conduct a self-assessment during the using the performance standards and rubric, data about student learning, past progress on district goals when available, the prior year's evaluation and rating, and other relevant evidence. Based on that assessment, the superintendent is supposed to identify at least 2 goals to propose to the school committee, one related to improving his or her own.
You still there?
And one related to improving student learning. Can you guys hear me?
We can. We just had a little shriek happen.
Yeah, feedback. Superintendent Rizzi failed to conduct self-assessment. Instead, she picked random goals from the tasks she already completed. Next, during a public meeting, the school committee and superintendent were supposed to review the proposed goals, key strategies, and benchmarks of progress. In consultation with the superintendent and with the objective of achieving mutual agreement, the committee was supposed to revise as needed and adopt at least one professional practice and one student learning goal. In addition, the superintendent and school committee was supposed to develop 2 to 4 district improvement goals with key strategies and benchmarks. Once adopted, the professional practice, student learning, and district improvement goals with their key strategies and benchmarks of progress become the superintendent's annual plan. The plan serves as a basis for assessing the superintendent's performance. Superintendent Rizzi failed to prepare superintendent's plan as required by DESE. Next, the superintendent was supposed to implement the superintendent's plan with assistance from the committee as appropriate. School committee members and the superintendent individually collect evidence of progress on goals and performance against the standards. Superintendent Rizzi and school committee failed to do that. Next, at a mid-cycle meeting or series of meetings, the superintendent was supposed to report on progress being made on the goals in the superintendent's annual plan. The school committee was supposed to review the report, offer feedback, and discuss progress and possible mid-cycle adjustment with the superintendent. Superintendent Rizzi and school committee failed to do that. Next, The superintendent was supposed to prepare an end-of-cycle report on progress towards each goal and performance against the standards. In a public meeting, the school committee was supposed to complete the performance review and end-of-cycle summative evaluation report, assessing attainment of the goals and the superintendent's performance against the standards. Superintendent Rizzi and the school committee failed to do that. Instead of all this important work, in late January, Superintendent Rizzi proposed 6 goals comprised of tasks she already completed. School committee approved her goals on February 11, 2014. 28 days later, on March 11, 2014, Superintendent Rizzi distributed a 2-page document entitled Report of the Superintendent on Goals Attainment. Bessie says good goals help educators, schools, and districts improve. That is why the educator evaluation regulation require educators to develop goals that are specific, actionable, and measurable.
SMART goal.
They require, too, that goals be accompanied by action plans and benchmarks to assess the progress. Superintendent's goals and her 2-page report does not have any benchmarks to assess progress, doesn't have action plans. They are not measurable, and they are not actionable because she already has done that. Furthermore, DESE documents require that all steps in the superintendent evaluation process are conducted effectively and with integrity. Superintendent Rizzi and school committee grossly compromised the integrity of the evaluation process. Superintendent Rizzi and school committee failed to identify superintendent's strengths and the areas for improvement and make recommendations for improvement as required by DESE. So Superintendent Rizzi and school committee failed to ensure the goals and actions detailed in the superintendent's annual plan are challenging, measurable, focused on high priority needs of the district students as required by DESE. So none of the goals are challenging because she has already completed them. They are not measurable because she did not provide how to measure those. And we don't know if they are on high priority needs. For example, on the budget, submitting the budget, that's something she's supposed to do every year. Superintendent Rizzi argues that the compromise in the integrity of the evaluation process was inevitable because of the short cycle she forced the committee to adopt. This is not a valid excuse because her last evaluation was completed on April 23, 2013, almost a year ago. She should have started her superintendent self-assessment study in April or May of 2013 instead of waiting until February of 2014. Therefore, this reviewer provides a rating of did not meet for superintendent's goal number 1.
Okay. We're not going to comment on these until everybody's had a chance.
Okay.
So my comments on goal number 1 were, which again was on the development of a budget proposal that clearly outlines the needs and vision of the school district based on analysis of many data points and presents this to the community. My comment is a continuous improvement to the budget process and the budget format has been evident in the changes witnessed over the last 4 years on the board. The executive summary was improved this year to reflect the joint vision of the superintendent and town manager. It's a concise summary of the budget and our priorities as a school district and as a community. It's also a clear statement of the values in reflecting the needs expressed in the district action plan and the triennial district improvement plan to continually improve education based upon student performance data. Mr. Dolinsky.
Following the last 2 acts, I'm very brief.
You're very brief, yes.
I'm very brief. And goal number 1, and I will not read the goal because everybody's already read it once or twice. And my answer and my statement was, the budget clearly defines the projected needs of the school system, coupled with the joint executive summary shows a new direction in fiscal cooperation.
Thank you, Ms. Sauvanet.
The budget is a model in transparency as noted by the Finance Committee. It also connects spending to student performance and district goals. See Budget Summary FY14 and FY15. The joint budget summary by the superintendent and town manager is exemplary and to be applauded in recognizing how intertwined are the goals and funds of both sides of town government. The taxpayers are well served by this cooperation. As a former chair, I know that the conversation about the budget begins in the summer, and that may be when the entire school committee could begin discussion.
Okay.
Do you want the individual rankings that we gave?
Oh, and yes, yes. And yours was?
Mine was met.
Mine was exceeded.
Mine was exceeded.
I guess comments on this, I have to preface or start this conversation. Dr. Earle, as a person who was the aggregator of this data, I just vehemently disagree with the fact that you think that your comment addresses the goal. The goal was to develop a budget proposal that clearly outlines the needs and vision of the school district. Your comments were all criticisms of what the school committee voted to do. And you kept blaming Dr. Rizzi for she forced the committee to adopt. She did not force us to do anything. We are a board that is able to think on our own. We came up with a plan that best met the needs of how the reports were rolling out at the end of last school year, and our cycle of wanting to do this in a way that would give everybody the best possible experience with the superintendent to be able to do this rating. I did not include your and this is a 2-page comment, and I want to add for the public that every single goal had the identical comment. Nothing at all was said for goal number 1 about the budget, and you based your did not meet on your accusations that somehow she created the process. It is our process, and it is the process we voted.
You voted it.
Yeah, it was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Wait, or maybe it was you, somebody waited till February 11, 2014. Superintendent is the one person that's being paid professional salary to do this job. And I don't understand why she did not do the, what was it, the first superintendent? She was supposed to do, prepare an end-of-cycle report.
You're going by the outline for the full year evaluation. Yeah. We did not have a formal.
Why did we have I believe it was Superintendent Rizzi that delayed the beginning of the full year process and waited until February, and that forced us into a short cycle. Why else did we do short cycle?
Nobody can force
me
in anything.
I thought I explained up front. We did a short cycle because in order to create SMART goals based on the district action plan and the district improvement plan, the triennial action plan, I guess the two
different ones.
I had it backwards. Triennial district improvement plan and the district action plan. Yeah. Those plans weren't completed until the end of the school year. So last June, when we would have been, or last April, I should say, when we would have been setting the goals, the documents didn't exist that the goals were to be based on. We were going from that transition where every decision made was based on a strategic plan to the one that DESE now requires with the district action plan and triennial district improvement plan. The plans didn't exist, and the ability to build SMART goals around those would have been a futile exercise.
Now, Ms. Hussaini, I believe the date on district action plan is August 15, 2013. Am I correct?
I don't have it in front of me.
And I believe it's the other one is July. So those plans were in existence, and then their latest form.
I'm sorry, they wouldn't have.
Last year, so that would have still allowed her to do her job and get the cycle started.
But that is not the cycle we voted. That's not the cycle that we voted. That's the point here. You can talk about this.
You didn't change my mind. Like you can't preclude me to saying or voting or ranking or evaluating the way I see it fit. You can't censor my how I evaluate the superintendent and this goal. And also the other point is that the goal that she picked was not measurable. How do we measure if she met it or she did the superlative work, or how are we? She was supposed to provide measures. If you do this, then you get good, and if you do this, you get great, and then if you do this, you get excellent.
We haven't
done any one of those, so it would be irresponsible for us to give her anything but did not meet.
I'm sorry, it's hard for me to argue with a box at the table. I don't have the same hand gestures and facial expressions. But we're going back to the discussion of the goals, and I'm telling you, Dr. Earle, at this point, that because your critique is of the school committee and not of Dr. Rizzi, although you aimed those comments at her, and because your did not meet was based on 2 pages of information that had nothing to do with the goal, and I understand that you disagree with the goal, but the point is we have 6 goals to evaluate, and you chose not to do that, that I have chosen, as the aggregator of this, to exclude that comment from the aggregate review. Now, you do know, we do understand that your review will be public record. That is not at all in debate here. But that the reason you will not see this 14-page document condensed into the aggregate report is that it does not address the goals. If you had addressed the goals, this discussion would be very different.
I am really addressing the goal, and you, as an aggregator, you do not have the authority to exclude anybody's statement or anybody's ranking for that particular goal.
I actually did seek an opinion from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, and I was told absolutely that I had the right to exclude an outlier comment, and that you had the right to ask for a vote to overrule that. And short of that, that'll be on the record. But short of that,
I'm asking for the vote to overrule that. And please make it a roll call.
Okay. Do I need that? I guess I need a motion, though.
The trip.
Are you making the motion?
I'm making the motion that the Ms. Husseini, as the aggregator of the what do you call yourself, Ms. Husseini? Aggregator of what?
Of the evaluation.
Aggregator of evaluations does not have the authority to silence one of the school committee members, and I asked the committee members to overrule that, because if you ask MAS...
There's a motion. You don't need to explain the why.
Okay.
So there's a motion on the table. Is there a second? Dr. Earle, there is no second.
Okay, and I'll offer one more piece of information. If you ask MASC, the chair can do that, or the committee secretary can do that.
That's correct.
If Ms. Shea were to do this, will she have the authority to exclude?
She would absolutely have the, yes, I asked that question as the aggregator. The aggregator has the ability to exclude outlier comments. Comments that do not address the goals.
So if you have a committee that 4-person thinks the superintendent is doing a great job with that particular goal and one doesn't?
This isn't about what we thought about this particular goal. This has to do with the fact that our comments address the goals, and that your comment addressed the process of the school committee and not the superintendent. And I really would like to move on, because this is a long evening.
Yeah, it's going to be a long night.
You know,
Get a life.
please, we have had ability to put the goals out on the table and to have discussion on the goals, I would like to offer, if you'd like to jump into this fray, your ability to weigh in as well.
I would most certainly.
I'm sorry. No, this is our. No, this is not
You guys need to treat each other with respect.
5-minute recess. 5-minute recess. Okay, everyone, we are back in session. Thank you. Where we left off was having everybody had the chance to read through their comments for goal number 1. I was going to give the superintendent the opportunity for input if you choose. Sorry, there's music coming from the speaker.
I have nothing to say at this point.
Okay. Very well.
Madam Chair, can I put clarity as the lady over there requested, that I didn't say anything negative towards? Thank you. Thank you. I said nothing negative towards my colleague, and I want the public to know that.
Thank you. Can we move on to goal number 2?
Joyce, could you tell me what happened?
Well, we had a little bit of an outburst, and we took a 5-minute recess. We are back, though, and we are going to start with goal number 2.
We are back on discussion?
We are back on discussion.
Ask one question.
Mr. Dolinsky would like to ask a question not related to goal number 2, or just?
No, just in general.
Okay.
Is the statement that Dr. Ural read cover all 6 goals, or is that his?
I will tell you that.
On just the first goal, and then we'll have the same thing going on for the other 5 goals.
I will tell you. Is it okay for me to tell you to tell the group what your evaluation is, or would you care to? That it is, in fact, the identical statement for all 6 goals.
All right.
Is that fair?
To goal number 2.
Dr. Ural.
Well, you're asking for...
I'm asking if that's a fair categorization of your review, is that you have, it is essentially, except for the last line, the exact same text for all 6 goals.
I don't know. It's probably...
It is. I checked. I took Word and I did a word count. So I'm going to say that, well, let's start with goal number 2. Goal number 2, the goal is to develop leadership team responsiveness to potential crises and their aftermath through professional development. So, Dr. Brown.
To answer that goal, I have the superintendent engaged in the services of a threat assessment expert for a workshop geared toward all administrators, nurses, and counselors during the short cycle that will be happening or did happen on March 13. I believe she met that goal.
Okay. Dr. Ural, because yours was identical, and we are reading our comments at this point, I am not going to have you read the entire comment over, but you will be welcome to enter the discussion after everybody's read their goals into the record. So I wrote, a school system places a high value on providing a safe and secure environment for their students and employees. To this end, the superintendent continues to evolve the crisis response through her leadership team. The continuation of the ALICE training that began last spring included on-site drills with the Stoughton Police Department, giving all staff the opportunity to learn the components of the new program, and giving the Stoughton Police Department valuable training at all facilities, helping improve their knowledge of the various school layouts and existing security infrastructure. Ongoing changes to the crisis organizational chart and the updates to the school crisis staff handbook reflect the changes in thinking around school safety. The superintendent's involvement in the transportation task force, as well as the involvement of others on her staff, reflects the townwide vision that the traffic, roadway, and sidewalk infrastructure are an integral part of the safety of our students. And I had met as my rating.
This is my turn again, right? Goal number 2, not reading the goal again. I put down this is ongoing, as there are continued measures that are being implemented. Entry to schools has been improved and must be monitored to ensure compliance.
And Ms. Sauvanet.
Well before the Sandy Hook school tragedy, plans were in place to proactively assess security and have trained, experienced personnel in place to assess individual students and staff. Even through the recession, counseling staff was kept in place to assess threats. Protocols and public safety partnerships have been developed to predict and respond proactively as well as reactively. Staff training by nationally recognized expert Dr. Robert Macy, a pioneer in public health, mental health intervention and research, and violence prevention initiatives was a coup for Stoughton. The new ALICE training for students and staff puts Stoughton Public Schools well ahead of other towns and is to be particularly commended. New security equipment and resources and cooperation with the Stoughton Police Department is also noteworthy. I have met.
Madam Chairman,
as my
yes.
I don't
Okay,
mean to step
discussion.
on- No, I just wanted to make sure that I did not mention that I had put down
Met as well.
Met also.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. Yes, sir.
I didn't hear the ratings. Everybody voted Met, or was it anybody? Could you tell me who voted what?
We had, I had met, Mr. Dolinsky had met, Ms. Sobonay had met, and you had met. They were all met.
And I voted did not met because of the reasons that I have stated, and also you know, this was not done within the review period. The review period is from February 11, 2014 until March 11, 2014. These are the things that were done outside, and the goals are not measurable. They are supposed to be measurable. So I can't believe people say met just because she has done some stuff in the past. They are not measurable, so I don't know. I think it's unconscionable to vote met.
Your opinion has been, your statement's been noted. Thank you.
I have nothing to say at this time.
I think that's probably. Goal number 3 is to implement extended day programs to address remediation needs and enrichment goals as identified by the analysis of data. Note, if blocked by the teachers union, the goal will have to be revised. So, Dr. Brown.
My response to the goal 3 is the remediation and enrichment programs in the 3-year district improvement plan are underway in all schools, and this is evidenced by 2 postings dated January 6th and May 2nd, 2014.
Okay. My comment is that this is a very forward.
My rating is exceeded.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry.
My comment is that this is a very forward-thinking approach to help solve the issues around remediation. The use of data to identify the students in need and the use of data to continually assess will be helpful in targeting the group that could benefit most in monitoring and provide tracking of the results. The solution to these needs was addressed in the District Action Plan and Triennial District Improvement Plan and implemented within the same budget cycle because it was important enough to not put this on hold until next year. The addition of the enrichment programs that had previously only been offered through the generosity of some PTOs is also an important component in helping students practice and master concepts learned during the school day while providing them with a safe and structured after-school activity. Planning for restoring the late bus in the FY15 budget will fully round out these programs and remove the barriers to participation. And my ranking was exceeded.
We're on goal 3. My response was continued offerings to these or those students that need MCAS tutoring is evidenced by the postings to the staff. Results will be determined by analysis of tests after completion of tutoring. And my ranking at this point was met.
Ames Web assessments are in place to quickly give feedback to teachers regarding their practice and to identify those students benefiting from remediation. Children are tested every 2 weeks to check on remediation effectiveness. Funding for late buses is in place for FY15 to remove any barriers to participation in after-school remediation and enrichment. 4 modules are in place for enrichment, such as poetry, rocketry, and art. Enrichment courses will double next year, and I have met.
Very well. Any discussion?
Could you state who rated what?
Dr. Brown? I have exceeded, Dr. Earl.
I have exceeded.
On goal 3, I had met.
Met.
Okay. Did you hear that?
Okay, I heard them. So I voted did not meet because she did not to this goal within the review period from February 11, 2014 to March 11, 2014. And the goal itself that the superintendent proposed did not have any way of measuring or how you would evaluate it.
Very well.
We're not smart goals.
Any other comments?
No.
Moving on to goal number 4. Supervise the implementation of the Common Core curriculum by the Deputy Superintendent, curriculum coordinators, and principals. Dr. Brown.
I responded by evidence by April 16, 2012, latest revision of grade 9 English language art curriculum with the Common Core standard. In addition, evidence posted on vacancies, and they were dated January 28, 2014. January 28, 2014.
Thank you. My comment is that Dr. Rizzi and her leadership team have been very proactive in addressing the realities of the Common Core and planning for its implementation ahead of the directive from the state to do so. The ongoing work by the Deputy Superintendent, curriculum coordinators, principals, and the large number of teachers involved in writing curriculum aligned to the Common Core and providing an online portal for its delivery has been noted by the National Institute of School Leadership as a national model. Starting the process in advance of having to implement it gave us the ability to spread the cost over time and not have to come to town meeting for articles for large-scale curriculum changes. Using sources available online or developed by staff and leveraging the use of smartboards and other technologies maximizes the investments previously made by the town. And I have met as a rating.
We're doing what, goal number 4?
4.
4. Again, being brief. Still a work in progress, though we are reported to be ahead of other districts. And I put down significant progress.
The National Institute for School Leadership cited Stoughton Public Schools curriculum web portal as a national example. My access into the web portal allows me as a school committee member to stay informed about standards on Common Core curriculum implementation. Stoughton Public Schools is far ahead of the vast majority of school districts in having our curriculum aligned with the new state frameworks. Most school committee members I have spoken to, and I met in other towns, most school committee members I have spoken to from other towns are scrambling to get this done, and our alignment with the Common Core is almost complete. The writing toolkits are exemplary, and I would like to see some kind of national or state venue, such as conferences, where they could be showcased as the models they are, and I have exceeded.
Discussion?
Joyce, would you restate who gave what evaluation?
We'll go down the line again. Dr. Brown?
For number 4?
4, yep.
Number 4 is exceeded.
I have met.
I have significant progress.
I have exceeded.
Okay.
What was the last one? I couldn't hear.
Deborah had exceeded.
Exceeded, okay. And I voted, ranked did not meet because, again, this goal is supervise the assistant superintendent over 1 month period, which is from February 11 to March 11. So I can't tell how she supervised it, or whether she did a great supervising job or a poor supervising job. And there was no way of measuring this goal. So that's why I voted did not meet.
Okay. Moving on to goal number 5, which is to establish and implement a triennial district improvement goal and make budget recommendations to fulfill it.
Okay, she established a goal, and the evidence is in the fiscal year 14 elementary schools, grades 2 to 5, they must provide targeted interventions to students in need of academic intervention, and she has it listed under Daw, Gibbons, Hanson, South, and West, so she has exceeded this.
Okay, my comment is it is a requirement by the state to replace the 5-year strategic plan with the triennial district improvement plan. This and the district action plan and the individual school improvement plans are based upon the use of student performance data to make informed decisions. This first triennial plan is a good start at moving us in the direction required. In its first year, there are several goals that have been identified and budgeted for the coming year, including the extension of the school day for both remediation and enrichment, and for further professional development and implementation, and the writing school, it should be of the writing toolkits. And I had met.
Goal number 5, I had just very briefly put down, based on information supplied, it looks like there is faculty participation, which should prepare us for the future. And my number 5 ranking was significant progress.
Dr. Rizzi herself facilitates a team implementing ELA curriculum for 3rd grade, where Reading to Learn currently begins. The triennial district improvement goal gives the district a financial roadmap going forward. Exemplary use of supporting data, particularly regarding students moving into the Stoughton Public Schools from other districts, and the resources and time, 2 years, necessary to help them catch up to Stoughton Public School students. And I have met.
Any further comments?
This one was establish and implement triennial district improvement
Correct.
goals and make budget recommendations to fulfill it. So this triennial plan was dated July of 2013, and the budget was done December of 2013. Therefore, she did not meet this goal within the review period, within the short cycle, as we call it, which started February 11, 2014. That's why I voted did not meet.
Very well. Goal number 6, to develop a district action plan based on the triennial plan. Dr. Brown.
She has done that and is stated in her goals and action steps dated September 2013 to August 2014. Under element 3, the triennial district action plan component in the area of secondary extended school day, policies, and program development, she has exceeded.
For goal 6, I have the district action plan is a very well-developed set of SMART goals with funding, timelines, and identification of responsible parties to carry the goals forward. It is a clear indication for parents and staff of the priorities for the district and for individual schools. And I have met.
I'm going to be briefer than I was before. And I just put down for the goal number 6 was that it's ongoing, and I had no other comments, and I put down significant progress.
That's fine. And just to note that there actually was no requirement to put comments unless the rating was did not meet some progress or exceeded. So you are well within your rights to make a very brief comment, or none.
I was as brief as I could possibly be.
Ms. Sauvanet.
The district action plan directly addresses proficiency gaps and directs funding to specific schools and student populations. I would want to see supporting data in a year that assesses the effectiveness of the action steps, financial resources, and timelines. I have met.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to just comment on is where I put exceeded is when there was an outside body that took special note of it. And that was true for the budget with regard to the Finance Committee and the Common Core curriculum with regard to the National Institute for School Leadership.
Thank you. The discussion, Dr. Earle.
I voted did not meet because the district action plan, the latest version of the district action plan is August 15, 2013. Therefore, she did not work on this within the short cycle. We are supposed to be doing short cycle, but we are trying to evaluate her on something that she had done 8 months ago. And also, there is a district action plan. How do I know it's a good, what would be the measure of it's a good action plan, a great action plan, or an excellent district action plan? So there are no measurable yardsticks that we could judge this on. That's why I voted did not meet.
Thank you, Dr. Earle. And then lastly, there was the ability to attach comments. and to have an overall summative rating. So I'm going to ask everybody to give their overall rating and then to read any additional comments they had. And the rating choices were unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, or exemplary.
And you want me to comment? Could you please?
You actually didn't. I don't know that you had a comment.
I didn't have.
Okay, and that's fine. Comments. My comment was, under the leadership of Dr. Rizzi, the Stoughton Public Schools have a clear path towards addressing the areas in need of improvement and continuing to improve upon our strengths. The process of planning for improvement through school and district improvement and action plans holds all parties accountable for student progress, including the superintendent. As this is the first year of the plan implementations and the first chance for SMART goals to be built upon the results of the plans, I expect to see continued growth in programming to address our needs. This type of systemic change can be difficult to implement, but this process, along with the shift to the Common Core curriculum, has been handled professionally and proactively. And I gave an overall rating of proficient.
Again, being somewhat brief, my overall comment was the superintendent is an asset to the community and the school system in its entirety. Many of the goals require cooperation from the teachers, which up to now, in my opinion, has been lacking due to a failure to settle the contract. My overall rating was proficient.
And, well, I was pretty brief. I just said proficient in all areas, exemplary in some, and my rating was proficient plus.
Dr. Earl?
Would you restate? I couldn't hear the comment. So I heard you voted proficient.
As did Mr. Dolinsky, and Ms. Ovene had proficient plus.
Proficient plus?
Yes.
There is no such category.
No, I made it up.
And what about Dr. Brown?
I had no comment, Dr. Earl.
So didn't you have no ranking?
I had no comment.
No, and you will see when you see the individual evaluations, she put her comments in a separate document and didn't put it on the form, and I don't believe saw the overall ranking.
Oh, so she didn't provide a ranking?
No.
Okay.
But I did not go back to people and ask them to amend their evaluations once they were submitted to me.
Ms.
Oh, are you, Dr. Earl, do you have a comment on comments? I'm making a comment?
Yeah. I vote unsatisfactory because all the reasons that I have stated, she failed to do get a evaluation done with integrity, and she has within the review short cycle that we are using, she hasn't done any of those goals. And, she has her job description. She has big responsibilities, which I think she's failing in some areas. And I don't think we are doing her any service by just giving her, good. She needs, to know where she needs to improve. So that's why I gave unsatisfactory.
Okay, so we have, I've read into it for the record. What the process is at this point is that I have an aggregate document which I've described to you. I did not hear any additions. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Ovene, you had a comment.
The only thing is that I mailed you a, there are a couple typos in here, and I had mailed you a second copy.
Correct.
Okay.
I
just wanted to make sure that.
And I'll let spell check catch any additional typos that may have happened.
There's kind of amusing typo in here.
Oh, I'll verify that before we
thank you.
before we move on. But I've created the aggregate document, and it is, like I said, based on exactly what people have read into the record here today, minus the outlier comments that I have decided to exclude. And I'm going to look for a vote of the board to accept that. And at that point, Dr. Rizzi will have a chance. There's a part in there for her to comment, as there is in just about everybody's employee review process. And then she will sign it, and I will sign it, and it will be, at that point, public record. So I am looking for...
I got a question, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
If Dr. Urel has posted this dissertation on his supposed evaluation. Excluding that, I don't know if that's the proper, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm looking for some guidance here. Is it supposed to be for the full committee and his comments be noted, or, I mean, I'm not agreeing with him, don't get me wrong, but I'm just wondering if we're not doing something, if we're missing something somewhere.
There's an aggregate document, which is, just as it sounds, it's a compilation based on what I saw when I got Dr. Ural's individual rankings, was that the comments didn't address the goals at all. The goals, as a matter of fact, if you listen to his reciting the one, which is identical for all of them, the goals were not addressed at all, and therefore, and like I didn't include them as, and because they were actually all indictments of the school committee. In my mind,
that's not true, Joyce. That's not true.
Well, and but they didn't address the goals, so that is why they were not included in the aggregate.
Should that be noted in the aggregate document? That
I can do that.
The fifth member did not address the goals, because I can understand that he has.
Well, you can't just put a statement from you without a statement from me.
I tell you what, I'm going to leave it stand as it is. I'm going to not address it. They were not addressing the goals, so therefore I chose not to, and nobody chose to second your motion to do that. Like I said, everything will be public record after the review signed anyway. So I'm looking for a motion.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Dr. Erdo?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, please. Yes. So a lot of the things you said in reference to the school committee. Were you including yourself?
A lot of things I said did not include the school committee. The superintendent is the professional. She is supposed to know how the evaluation is done. So essentially, she painted the school committee into a corner, what we call, what you guys call short cycle. Short cycle is from February to March, and then the things that you guys are evaluating is outside the short cycle. Don't you see the logic? I mean, in the flaw in this logic, because he's the one who didn't start the superintendent's report of all the things that I have said. She hasn't done get the process started, where in fact she could have done that in July or August, because all those documents were available at that time. So now you are painting, the school committee she waited till January or February to get the process started. And then we said, okay, we got to do a short cycle. We didn't have to, but so now the short cycle is from February to March. And then the things that you are looking at is from the things that she has done before. So how can you evaluate it within the short cycle and on things that was done outside the short cycle? And the other really important part that compromises the integrity of that process is she is supposed to come with goals that are measurable, that are SMART goals. And none of these were, tell me if I'm wrong, none of these were SMART goals, because it didn't include how they can be measured. So I'm not blaming this all on school committee.
Okay.
I am maybe blaming it on the chairperson because she let this happen. But then again, chairperson is a volunteer. She's allowed to make mistakes. But we pay the superintendent a huge salary to get things done in a timely fashion and according to the law. And she failed miserably here.
Well, thank you for allowing me to make mistakes, Dr. Ural.
Thank you, Dr. Ural.
Are there any other comments?
I just want to thank the administration for having done a really wonderful job. I know that this kind of public evaluation is extremely difficult, and and under these circumstances, you have my sympathies, but I see that you have made significant progress to move the district forward. I look forward to continuing to hear evaluations about the programming that have been put in place. And I also look forward to starting to begin just a general discussion about the budget towards the end of the summer. It doesn't have to be a formal thing, but just maybe a little bit of time each meeting, because I know that certainly when I meet with you or when I have met with you, we do begin those discussions, and I think it would be useful for people to understand how early those discussions begin, and to also get some insight into your meetings with the administrators, with the principals, the kinds of suggestions that they offer for what they need. It would be good to hear that, and for us to just get kind of general small updates about, very early on, because people think that when we vote on the budget in December, that we've really just heard about it or discussed it for a couple of meetings, when in fact discussions have gone on for many months between you and the staff and between some of the school committee members and you. So I think it would be really helpful for the public to get an insight and to understand not only how early those discussions begin, but also to get a little bit more insight into the kinds of data and analysis and thought that goes into those budget decisions.
Mr. Dolinsky.
Madam Chairman, and I'll take it upon myself to admit that as appointed to the Finance Subcommittee, I failed in my duties along with my associate, who tried to motivate me to get the meetings going, which I sort of fell down on the job. And I think if or when reelected, and if I'm still on that subcommittee, I think you'll see a marked change. Some of the information that was presented to us, whether the transfers this evening or whatever, we should have known about coming about earlier. And
okay, I just want to hold this conversation to the evaluation.
I just want to make sure I don't want anybody casting
because
dispersions.
I want to.
Madam Chairman, if I may, I don't want anybody casting dispersions on the superintendent for information regarding the budget when the subcommittee did fail, and I accept that.
Well, thank you for that input, Dr. Brown.
I just want to commend you. You and Ms. Ford on an excellent job you've been doing. I know what a district looks like when it's working, and this is one that is working. And I just want to commend you all and your staff and keep pushing forward.
And thank you.
And I'd like to add, too, that I think that this is probably, of my 4 years, the most exciting time to be involved in education, because as I look at this improvement process and this planning process, and maybe because it makes sense to a linear thinking mind, it is just very well laid out, and it gives us clear steps. And I really would hope that from the public perspective, anybody has a chance to goes on the school website, the committee tab, and looks at that document map, which has the flow chart and has the documents that are complete, because you really can tell, as opposed to the 5-year strategic plan, which had 5 goals that were kind of vague. They're smart goals. They're very specific. The funding's applied, and I'm thrilled that we've been able to get a jump on many of the programs that we're going to rely on funding in the FY15 budget already in this budget. I think that those are just critical for the students to have the enrichment, the remediation, and to start moving that process forward. So really, it is the most gratifying part of this new process is just being able to see how quickly we can progress and how the public can see it, because everybody talks about transparency. There's so much to this job. There's a great deal more to your job, but this is one of those tools that will really help the public understand what it is that the superintendent's office and a school committee member responsibilities are all about, that it's very well laid out. So. Thank you. Yes, sir.
you know, people who are interested should look at this Massachusetts model system for educator evaluation document posted on DESE webpage. It tells you what the process is. It tells you actually what the goal, how the goals are smart, how to determine if the goals are smart. And I totally disagree that these were SMART goals. They were just one sentences or two sentences. How could you claim that they were SMART goals?
And that's been noted, Dr. Ural, and this isn't the full cycle evaluation.
I was addressing your comments. They were certainly not SMART goals, and we discussed the short cycle versus regular cycle to death. It is clear and on the record, but since I was hoping I didn't have to do that this year, but in the past years I have written comprehensive evaluations of Dr. Rizzi, and so by excluding my evaluation from the aggregate, I will be doing a more comprehensive evaluation of Dr. Rizzi, her performance, and how she needs to improve it, because we have a responsibility to provide her with that information.
And Dr. Ural, just so you know, the evaluation that you handed in to me, the individual, is, as far as I'm concerned, the legal document that will get attached, as all of our individual ones are. But anything you do beyond that is not as a school committee member, but you're entitled to say whatever you want as a citizen and taxpayer.
It will be attached to where?
Well, to the record for what the official evaluation is, and yours will be included. I'm not excluding you from that process. It's just not included in the aggregate.
I'll see what you will do, because I wasn't able to hear all the conversation.
Okay.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to restating some of those. But anyways, go ahead, please.
Well, what I need to do at this point is I need to get this wrapped up. And what I'm looking for is that, I will explain one last time, the aggregate evaluation is a compilation of all of the comments that were written on your reports verbatim, and that then Dr. Rizzi will have, and as well as the summaries of the scores, the met, succeeded, and the proficients. And we will, I'm looking for a motion and a vote to accept those comments as the aggregate. Dr. Rizzi will then make her comments, and I guess and they will then be part of the public record. I'm getting very tired, sorry. Looking for a motion to allow me to carry that forward as the aggregate.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Okay.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What is the motion?
It was to allow to combine the comments that address the goals into an aggregate review. And it's motion and seconded, and I think we all in favor was aye, and you are going to decline or oppose.
I'm going to vote no.
Okay. Noted. So thank you all.
Can I vote no 5 times?
No, you cannot. Oh, I would like everybody to hand me their individuals, since that is the only copy I had of individuals.
Then I wrote all of them.
Oh, and no.
You have a dated email.
Yes. That is, and I took the wrong one. Your comments are in there, so you can compare them there.
Okay.
I wrote all of mine. You want it back though?
Yes. Everybody, well, let me go on to the last thing. We are going into executive session tonight for the purposes of accepting the minutes of the meeting of January 28th, 2014, for collective bargaining strategy and grievance update, which fall under item number 3, which I left my thing at home.
Oh, I think I have one.
Oh, Miss Sylvan's going to pull it out for me.
Let's see who finds theirs first.
I know. Well, I knew I didn't have my packet electronic tonight. I didn't.
Hang on.
And then I'll continue. Financial warrants will be distributed in the school committee meeting room. The next regular meeting is April 29th, and that is in fact the public hearing date for the budget. and for school choice. It is also, I have asked to have put on the agenda that night, a public forum for people to come in and give comments on that concept that we had talked about a while back as to what they would like to see for religious holidays and for school vacation concepts. Not that any of that will be implemented this coming year, that calendar's already been decided, but I am interested in soliciting parent input. We will get that information or that request out for input in as many venues as in any many ways as we can, emails and social media, but I would hope that people would come out that night and kind of help us figure out what it is the feelings of the parents really are. So we look forward to that. Election Day is next Tuesday. I'm still waiting for, here I go, number 3. So we're going into executive session to discuss collective bargaining strategy and grievance update, which is number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. Thank you.
And what about the grievance update?
And that was as well. Both of those were number 3.
Okay, thank you.
Joyce?
Yes,
So
sir.
made.
So I have Dr. Earl, do you have a comment?
After the roll call, I will hang up, and then would you send me like maybe call me or send me a text just before you start the executive session so I could call in at the right time?
Well, hold on.
Madam Chairman?
Well, hold on. What?
Can we have the executive session here so Dr. Erdem can... No?
No, we don't have to move this. We can do it from the speakerphone in the conference room.
Yeah.
So we'll just use a different technology. That's fine. But what we'll do is we'll either text you the extension or we'll call you from that phone to patch you in when that meeting starts. That is absolutely fine.
Actually, you could call me. That's right.
Yeah, except I don't know all the codes to get past the system or what the system allows. So we'll figure that out when we get into the room before we start the meeting. That's
Thank you so much.
not a problem. Even if you have to call the other number and get transferred into that room.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So I'm looking, I had a motion.
Yes.
Second.
And a second. Dr. Brown.
Aye.
Dr. Earl.
Yes.
Mr. Dolinsky.
Yes.
Ms. Ovene.
Yes.
And myself, yes. So there will be no votes in executive session, so this portion of the meeting is adjourned. Thank you. We're going to hang up on you now.
Yeah, okay, right. Me too.
Okay.